Listen to me, you fools. I don't always have time to be entertaining you. You want a Let's Play, and you want it on time? That means I'm not always creating a creative opening. And ironically, I just made a creative opening. Let's play. All right. So, in all seriousness, I have been working off camera in order to grind up some. Right as my. All right. Yes. I have been working off camera. As you can see, the Pikachu is level 17, the Nidoran is level 14. So I am trying to put in some effort here so that you don't have to watch all of the leveling on camera. So let's see what we can do here. All right. So I'm actually going to head to the... Whoops. Got to turn around. I'm going to head to the Pokemon Center, which is right outside. So what I'm doing right now, I'm kind of hanging out at the entrance to Mount Moon, and I'm just grinding the levels up. So the Pikachu, my personal minimum is level 20 for Misty's Gym. So we should be able to hit that, or very close to it, by the time that we are getting into the next city. And the Nidoking would be ideal. So the Nidoking, we still technically have a little bit more time for that. But Nidoking having a third evolution so soon into the game is beneficial. But the biggest payoff for Nidoking is going to be when we get to the third gym, right? So all of this is planning. Because Surge doing electric type Pokemon, the Nidoking's going to have general resistance to electric type. And then the hope is by the time we get to the fourth gym, which is grass-based, we'll finally get our payoff from our starter, and the Charmeleon should be... It depends on your leveling, but should be a Charizard very close to the fourth gym. I've played through this game probably more than most other games, and I know almost always I'm like somewhere between a level 36 to a 38 Charizard. So level 36 would be exactly when Charmeleon evolves. So it's like right on that cusp, provided you've been stopping off and doing grinding in the way that I'm doing here. So, all right, that's pretty good. So I think we're going to start making our push through Mount Moon. Let's see if we can get through most of it today, depending on the random encounters, because we're too early to get decent repels in the game right now. All right. And now that the nice thing is, right, so when the Nidoran was like level 3, 4, you have to just keep putting it out front, and then it's too weak, so you bring it back, and then you have to burn a turn sending out a different Pokemon. So now that it's strong enough, it usually can hold its own, which means it gets the full experience instead of having to split it with another Pokemon. And that helps with increasing the leveling a little bit quicker. And I will move the Nidoran out of... I'm going to need Charmeleon for that. I will move the Nidoran out of the front spot once the evolution occurs, which I think is... I want to say it's level 16, from what I remember. Yeah, so Red and Blue are the games in the Pokemon series that I've played the most. My childhood accounting for a lot of that, but I've certainly played other games since then. And I'm kind of, well, I guess I don't know that I'd say I'm ashamed to say, but I will say that I didn't play the original Gold and Silver. And a big reason for that is my personality. I tend to be very resistant to change. And so you have to remember, I grew up for a good 2 years. And Pokemon was like my childhood during that time. You had the base set cards that came out, which were the original 150, right? And then the Fossil and the Jungle expansion sets. And you had the Pokemon Red and Blue game. The Pokemon Show had the original 150 Kanto. So I remember when Gold and Silver was coming out, I was extremely resistant to the idea. Because I remember seeing it in, Toys R Us, and... they had the new expanded Pokedex, and they were like, oh, look, it's gone up to, I think it was 250. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm not learning another 100 Pokemon. I already have my 151, right, with Mew being the mythical one that was kind of, some people considered Mew in there, some people didn't. And then I just remember seeing, and some of the designs looked okay, right? So, like, I would see Suicune, or I would see Lugia and stuff like that. And I was like, well, it kind of looks cool, but so to me, I remember even as a early teenager, when I saw it, I don't want that confusion. When I saw it, I was just like, this is a money grab. I remember feeling that even back then. Now, obviously, objectively speaking, if I were to look at it, I would say, I hate confusion. I would generally say that Gen 2 is objectively the best generation of the bunch. Now, that is not necessarily the Pokemon that you find in there, but the game itself is the best in terms of the brand new outline, the towns that you go to. And then what they did right was once you completed the actual like new Gen 2 map, you got to go back to Kanto, right, after the game. So it was like they brought back the Gen 1. Now, it wasn't a full playthrough. You basically would go over to Kanto, and you would end up going through and fighting the gyms there, right? So, like, Blue, your rival from the first generation, was the new gym leader for Giovanni's gym. So it was kind of cool just to see. It was like you have this new generation, you're bringing in new memories, new Pokemon, a new map, and then it was kind of a shout out where they were sort of like, hey, we also haven't forgotten the roots and where this came from. And my understanding, I'd have to go watch more about it, but I think Game Freak, when they first started, had a limited budget to make Pokemon. And so when they made the first game, what they had really wanted was they wanted the experience that was in Gen 2. So Gen 2 was sort of like their initial mind or goal as far as what they wanted, but their budget was too limited for what they were working with back then. So they had to make Red and Blue first, which ironically, a lot of people still hold as not necessarily the best game, but the best gen of Pokemon, right? So a lot of people still view the original 150 Pokemon as sort of the ones that laid the groundwork and are, you know, most treasured. And you can see that if you go through and you look at Pokemon products in modern day, right? So one of my favorite sets, Hidden Fates, if you go and you look, right, take my bias out of it and you just look at the sale of Hidden Fates. Even when Hidden Fates released in 2019, they could not print to demand. And that was before COVID and printer issues and having to shut down production, which has obviously drastically slowed things since then. Sets were fine up until Hidden Fates. There was always enough on shelves. The demand didn't outweigh the supply. And then it was like, you know, they basically said, hey, we're going to go back and we're going to essentially make a set with most of the original 150. And people just went absolutely crazy for it. So when you take a look at that, I think it speaks to the fact that people have a connection to that original set. And it's interesting because even individuals that probably didn't grow up or weren't alive during the initial gen, right? Because this came out in the late 90s. You still have plenty of people nowadays that kind of grew up in the Gen 3, Gen 4 era, but they still recognize and appreciate and are fans of the initial. So, but yeah, I never played Gold and Silver. In fact, I didn't really do much with Gold and Silver until the Heart Gold, Soul Silver remakes, which is where I got my main introduction. And if I were to, again, objectively say what's the best set of games out there for Pokemon, it would be the Heart Gold and Soul Silver remakes on the DS. And again, go in and look at the prices. If you go right now and you want to buy a complete in-box Soul Silver or Heart Gold, I think it's like north of $200 for an old DS game, right? So everything's been going up. The Gen 1 Game Boy Advance games are now well over $100 if they're in decent condition. So again, it all leads to you can look at the market as a whole and you can see where the interest is, which is kind of amusing to me. And I know they obviously want to branch out and do different things, but the Pokemon Company doesn't seem to get, you know, they always try to push all these new techniques and new things, and obviously they're doing okay because Pokemon as a whole is still doing okay. But generally speaking, if they stuck mostly to, you know, around Gen 1, Gen 2, you could bring in other Pokemon from different generations. But if you were printing sets like that for the cards, if you basically... And I know people are like, okay, enough with the remakes of Kanto and stuff, but I guarantee you, Not the way that Pokemon Let's Go was done, which was that newer Switch game, which within its own right was interesting. But if you go and you make a remake of the original Red and Blue, uh, beyond what the Game Boy Advance version was, so you make like a more modern one that's more open world or something like that, I guarantee you, it's Pokemon can print their own money essentially. Pokemon printer go burr. All right. But I am definitely looking forward to the Evolution set. So I want to see what the special set for the 25th anniversary is going to be, because obviously that would probably be interesting. And if it's anything like Evolutions, that's going to be awesome. But generally speaking, my hope would be that it's going to be so. I hope that it's a kind of how they did Evolutions, but it's for Gen 2, right? So if you go back and you look at the cards from the Neo sets, when you're talking about Neo Genesis, Neo Destinies, all that kind of stuff, I would love to see, and I think a lot of people have kind of speculated this, that in the 25th anniversary, so for the 20th, they did it with the original set, and now that they do it for the Neo sets, which came out in like, the early 2000s, again, part of it is that I just selfishly want to experience that, because I had fallen off when Gen 2 came, and I didn't really pick it up until about 2013 or 14, which is when Pokemon X and Y came out. And the only thing that drew me to Pokemon X and Y was the fact that the original Kanto starters were being promoted in it. So I remember in all the ads and people posting it on Instagram and stuff, I kept seeing pictures of, these Gen 1 starters that were in there. So it was like you could see Charizard and you could see Blastoise, and I was like, dude, look at the Gen 1 Pokemon that have been essentially remodeled or redone for this new 3DS game. And that sold me. I started playing it, and then the moment I started playing X and Y, all those memories came rushing back, because I hadn't played it since, I don't know, like 2002, 2003. I would always play the original on emulator or the Game Boys that I had throughout the year, because I would play video games. But I sort of took a very long sabbatical from Pokemon, and I think that's common for a lot of people. They got into it as a kid, they kind of pushed pause on it for a while, and then all these memories come flooding back when there's like some big Pokemon event. So a perfect example of that in 2016 was Pokemon Go, right? So I was back into it before Go came out, and I remember the release and what a big deal that was. But when Pokemon Go, oh man, when Pokemon Go first came out, not only was it was so bizarre, because it was like there would be news stories everywhere, and then my mom would call me up and be like, "Oh, I keep hearing about Pokemon in the news. Do you remember Pokemon?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I remember Pokemon, Mom. That was like my childhood. I grew up with Pokemon." But it was just everywhere. Everybody, people who hadn't touched it in forever, people that only watched the show, all of a sudden Pokemon was everywhere, right? And 2016 conveniently aligned with the 20th anniversary. So it was like not only did you have that, but then you had a bunch of other stuff that sort of aligned with it. So, the Evolution set and everything going on there. And Evolutions was great, but Generations was actually probably my favorite of the bunch. And that was a much more special subset, so. All right. Let's see what we got here. All right. We are starting to approach time. Because, I keep them about 15 minutes in length. That's just fits my schedule and what I've got. But anyway. Yeah, the Pokemon Go craze was just absolutely insane. I remember I would get so frustrated because I was trying. Surprise Ether. I do remember that. I remember that I was desperately trying to sign on to the servers so I could play, and the servers would take forever to load. And it's like they would keep crashing, so you'd wait, 10 minutes to get in, and then it would load, and then it would crash, because just every single person was playing it. It was nuts. Alright, and I think the last one's going to go to the Charmeleon. We got to be careful about how many random battles we're taking on. Just because I need to be able to survive the remaining trainer battles. So, and again, the problem, if I'm switching out, which I was doing there because he was so low health, if I'm switching out the Nidoran constantly, it's giving free shots on the other Pokemon. Now we're low on potions, so. Alright. 16. Is this going to be the evolution? Nice. Okay. So we'll get the Moonstone at the end of Mount Moon, and we'll be good to go. There we go. Perfect. Alright. So we do have one more stretch here. Oops, trainer. Alright, we'll beat this trainer, and then that's going to be it for right now. So we do have one more stretch of Mount Moon, which is going to be basically where the rocket stuff is, and then we'll get the fossil at the end. So I'm going to have to pick out which fossil I want to go with. Alright, let's see how hard he hits now. Nice. Perfect. Alright. Always nice when they level up. We will just keep going with that. So anyway, yeah, it's my first. I basically gotten into heavily Pokemon 3 times. It was my childhood, obviously. That was the first time, which I'd say was like 98 to 2000. Fell off for quite some time, but still had a love with the original Game Boy games. Came back around 2013. X and Y was the main driver that got me into that, and then I got back into the card game and everything else at that point. And then finally, the last time would be recently, so within like the past 6 months. And that was more just because Pokemon, again, was starting to appear in the headlines. So the reason for the drop-off from 2016 till now was children, having my young children. I just didn't have time. It fell off my radar. I forgot about it. And it's unfortunate because I missed a lot of good Pokemon card sets. I missed all the tag team sets, and I want to collect them, but I'm waiting to see if the market drops because the booster boxes are insane right now. A lot of them are between $300 to $600 per booster box. So, but anyway, good investment opportunities. That is it. Pokemon Professor out. I will see everybody next time. Take it easy.